Maserati, a brand known for its Italian flair with an amazing racing pedigree. It's just lost its way a little bit and released some fairly unexciting cars, but that was until now. Because right in front of me, we have their latest car, the MC20, and it's the kind of car we've been wanting Maserati to make for a very long time. And here at Romans, we have the very first one for sale in the UK. Okay, so in today's video, we're going to show you around this car, discuss some of the features, some of the different options you should look out for, and later on in the video, we'll discuss just where it sits in the market. Okay, so we'll start off by showing you the exterior of the car. I mean, for me, this is one of the best looking supercars to come out in recent years. It's a totally just original and fresh design. It's got such clean lines on it, nothing too fussy. I really like it. I mean, the little things to point out, I guess you've got the famous Maserati Trident badge, which just sits so nicely in that front grille. You have this sort of very pronounced front splitter. You can spec this in carbon as part of the carbon exterior pack, which I'll discuss a little bit more. Got these nice little scoops here, but just really quite clean and classy. And around here you have these lovely diamond cut alloys. These are called the Miron wheels. You'll notice the blue calipers, that's part of the sort of white and blue theme of this car. It does hark back to the MC12, which you might remember from about 20 years ago, the hypercar. And this was really the sort of spiritual successor to that car. Obviously the name MC20, which shows here on the side of the car. So again, down here on the side sills, you can spec these in carbon fiber. It's part of a pack called the carbon fiber exterior pack. I think it's about £35,000. Does look great in carbon, but obviously takes the list price of the car very high. What this car does have is this lovely carbon fiber roof. It's a huge panel. I think it's just shy of £6,000. You can also spec that in black, or you can obviously go with the body color if you want to save a few quid. Okay, so round to the back of the car, you'll notice this sort of Lexan window, and then you'll see the little vents in the engine cover, which is in the shape of a trident. And then of course inside sits that V6 twin turbo. We'll come back onto that in a bit. And then down here, you'll notice the central exhaust, which will be familiar to MC Stradale owners. And then you have right at the bottom a very aggressive rear diffuser. So all in all, I think it's such a great design. It really feels like a proper supercar. And the best of all, the very first time Maserati has had butterfly doors. So you'll also notice when the doors are up, all this visual carbon fiber, it's forged carbon. That's because the whole car is built on a carbon fiber tub, which is why the car is so lightweight. But the other nice thing about butterfly doors is the practicality element. It actually gives you so much more room to get in and out of the car. So let's actually get inside. And inside, you're greeted with this lovely matte carbon fiber and Alcantara steering wheel. This car's actually got the carbon fiber interior pack, which is an option. You get carbon fiber all through the center console. You also get a little bit on the door sills. But what you'll notice about the interior is it's very minimalistic. There's only so many buttons. So you have 4 different modes on here. You have the GT mode, which is obviously for sort of driving on open roads. You have Sport mode, which is just for a few more thrills. Then you have Corsa mode, which is slightly more extreme sort of racing. And finally, you have Wet mode, which is obviously going to keep the car under a little bit more control on those drizzly days. Other than that, you have this beautiful seat design where you have this sort of white and blue theme carried on with this sort of little laser etch with the blue coming through. These are just the sport seats. There's no other seat design at the moment. You can get an optional carbon fiber to the back of the seat. Also, a really cool feature I like is on the rear view mirror. That actually doubles up as the camera, so you can see exactly what's going on behind you. So one more option worth mentioning is the £3,250 suspension lifter, another first for Maserati. But competing with the other supercars these days, most people want the option of raising that suspension, which obviously is going to help you clear those speed bumps or any getting out of those steep drives. And with supercars these days, you find suspension lifter on most other models, so it's good to see Maserati raising their game and getting that for the first time. Okay, so just before we move on to the performance, I'm just going to show you a little bit of the practicality and show you the luggage space. So if I open the boot up, Most supercars these days, not always very practical, but here I think pretty impressive amount of boot space. You can definitely get a small suitcase or a couple of rucksacks, and there's even a little bit more storage space up front. Might not be able to fit too much in here, but certainly space for a few more smaller items. So hey, I think this is a fairly practical supercar. So I must admit, whilst I fell in love with this car because of the way it looks, the critics are actually raving more about its performance. So it's a huge change for Maserati to move their engines from the front to make them mid-mounted, and inside you have this V6 twin turbo. It's actually the first time Maserati have built their own engine for over 20 years, and it actually uses F1 derived patented technology. So it is a totally original and quite a special engine. I know some of you will think V6, but the thing is, so we've seen more and more supercars adopt V6 engines. We've seen it on the new Ford GT. We've got Ferrari bringing out a V6 for their 296 GTB. So before any of you rule this car out because it doesn't have a V8, firstly, just look at the performance figures. This car does 0 to 62 miles an hour in 2.9 seconds. It's got a top speed of 202 miles an hour. And I actually think this sounds pretty good too. I find the actual turbocharged sound pretty addictive. Okay, so how much do these things cost and where do they sit in the market? So the base price of these cars is about £187,000. That's of course with no options at all. You're gonna wanna put some options on this car. I mean, the paint alone on this car costs over £13,000. With the carbon fiber roof, that's almost another £6,000. If you're going to get the full carbon fiber exterior package, that's another £35,000. So very quickly, you can spec one up to about £250,000. Do I think that's expensive? For a Maserati, maybe you think yes, but then you have to think this car is the spiritual successor to the MC12. That car today is going to cost the best part of £2.5 million. So I know it's slightly different, and this is more of a production model, or it will be. This is obviously the very first car to hit the market, so there is a small price to pay on top of list. But look, compared to what else is out there, you've got the likes of the F8 Tributo, but really that was a facelift of the 488. It's not the most exciting new car out. You've got the 720S McLaren. Again, a good car, but it's been out for almost 5 years now. The nice thing about the MC20 is it's totally fresh and original. There is no car that it's based on. I mean, yes, Maserati are breaking new ground here. We don't know exactly what's going to happen next. They might bring out a Spider version, possibly. There's certainly something nice about owning a car that's the top of the range, let alone the very top car that a manufacturer produces, and then it's Maserati, you know, one of the oldest and coolest brands out there. I think this car definitely deserves its place amongst the very best supercars out there. So yeah, look, here's a great opportunity to own one of the very first ones on the road.